Welcome back to another episode of WriteSea's Executive Interview Series. The Voices of Higher Education series is what we're doing here at the NACE conference here in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, 2024. Thank you so much. We are here with Mr. Andy Chan from Wake Forest.
Yep.
Thank you for coming and having a conversation.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, the purposes of these conversations is just for us to share knowledge nuggets, talk about what you guys are doing at your university, maybe tell a little bit about your personal story and what you guys are doing to help the students. Is that cool?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So first, we're here at NACE, right? What's the reason why you come to a conference like NACE?
There are a lot of good benefits coming to NACE. One is just meeting great people, meeting, honestly, yourself, your team, all these different people who actually are trying to innovate in ways to make things better for people who work in the industry at career services offices, but also the students. Everyone's got a huge heart for helping others. I have a lot of friends here. I've been in this field really in the college side, 15 years, add another 9 years working on the MBA side. So over 24 years working in career services. So I know quite a few people, and it's fun to see them all. And then I think, things are always changing in our world. It's everywhere, but definitely in the world of higher ed, in the world of career services, our students. And, the fact is that these students today, 2024, come into our campus at Wake Forest. They were born in 2006. And sort of think of all the things that I think were funny that happened before 2006. They have no clue. They probably don't even know from 2016 practically. So knowing that, you actually have to say, I got to stay on top of trends, and NACE helps you to do that.
I love that. Yeah, we come here too to network and meet with folks. It's probably like a reunion for you now, because you don't get to see these people but maybe once a year.
That's right.
Right, so that's pretty cool. What made you get into this industry? Have you always, you've been in it for 24 years, so I would say yes. What's the reason why you joined this particular industry and, that whole journey that you've had?
That's a great question, and it makes me think that you think I look younger than I actually really am, because actually before I worked in this world in education, there you go.
You look like you could be my younger brother.
Yeah, I'll give that to my parents and say great genes. But before working in higher ed, 15 years, I actually worked in the business world. I worked at Bain & Company as a consultant.
Okay.
I worked at Clorox as a brand manager on Hidden Valley Ranch salad dressing of all things. And then I worked at a bunch of educational technology startups, either K-12, corporate, had a little stint with an internet travel company. And then finally, my last was creating an online recruiting company that was designed to help alumni at universities basically have a online career portal, more or less, for them. This was during the dot-com boom days. So I had a bunch of experiences that really gave me a sense that the type of problem I like to solve, or how do we help people achieve their full potential? How do we help take them from one place and get them to another? And after that last company, I was at a place where I was thinking, I joked that I had less hair on my head then than I do now, because running a startup was so stressful.
Yes.
So I ended up going to work at Stanford to run the Career Center there at the business school.
Really?
And I really found I had a huge heart for being in this intersection between the market and what's happening in the sort of business and employment world. And then on the other side, the student and the education world. And recognizing that in this unique role, you have to have the capability to sort of think about both different groups, and they're very different from each other.
Being practical.
Hold the tension and figure out how do you actually help them really come together. And one of the things I sometimes say in work is do you love the people that you work with or institutions you work with? And that's a really interesting thing. I realize I actually love the employers. I love my team. I love my school. I love the students. I can go to work every day saying I really enjoy all the different people I'm working and serving. And that's a great special place to be in. And so I've been able to do that. What happened was in 2009, Wake Forest had a president, a dean, a provost who were all very innovative people. They all really wanted to really lean into how do we create the greatest experience and value for our students. And one of those that they really wanted to transform was this whole college to career experience. And they went around the country talking to different people. And when they had heard about me and met me through, actually the dean of the business school's son was at Stanford, and I was one of his coaches, mentors. And he said, you should talk to Andy, not thinking you're going to recruit Andy away from Stanford, but you should talk to Andy. And of course, they went to work on figuring out how to recruit me. And they got me because they painted a huge vision of the possibilities. And it really appealed to my sense of innovation, entrepreneurism, transformation and helping, honestly, an institution really say, we are really devoted to the outcomes of our young people, helping them become truly like career ready, like not only great first job, but have all the skills and mindsets so that as they change jobs throughout their life, they've got it in them. And that's what we've been able to do there.
You know, speaking of that, like what are some of the things that you guys are doing and have implemented over the last couple of years to provide that success for these students as it relates to their careers?
Yeah, you know, the first thing that I think is sort of at the core is we created some actual career courses where students can take a half semester, 1.5 units of credit course, and learn all the fundamentals around different semesters. Who am I? What's the shape of the employment marketplace? What's out there in the market for me? Third, what are all the job search skills that I need to have that make me career ready? And fourth, sort of how do now I become an effective leader person in the world and take all this stuff and what I learned in my academic side and package it to go out. So with all these courses, what I will say a lot is
different disciplines?
Yeah, all disciplines. So like it's not just business alone, or it's not just
Right.
engineering alone. It's like it's any student from any discipline can actually get access to this. And what happens is that these students are so much more clear about why they're majoring, what they're majoring in, what kinds of clubs and other activities they're doing, how to tell their story. Their just career confidence is so high. So that's sort of one fundamental thing that I feel very fortunate we were able to put in place. Second piece is that we created we thought about the network, and usually we think mostly about alumni, but at Wake Forest, and I think actually this generation of young person, parents are a huge part of like they really care about what's going on with my student.
Very good point.
If this institution is willing to welcome me in, I'd love to be part of it. And we happen to have a lot of parents who actually are really into that. So as a result, we've really tapped into that network, both for job opportunities, and many of them, these people who are parents, are running these major firms around the country. And they're saying, hey, we should make sure we take a look at Wake Forest students. Our employer relations team is top tier. They have an amazing experience, and all of a sudden, I would say like the number and types of employers we had, 15 years ago to today has got to be like 5 times in terms of more expansive, more broad, more everything. And so that's a really big part of it.
People don't think like that, like in terms of reaching out to the parental network. They're only thinking about alums.
Right.
And that's a really smart thing that you guys
That's
do.
right. And our parents in particular, like because of what we do, and we really try to tell them, for innovation to happen at a university, it doesn't happen off the base budget. The base budget is paying for the base experience,
Correct.
and it's very difficult to get incremental dollars to do new things.
Right.
But there are donors, when you paint them, here's the possibility of what we could do with this new tool, like what you have, or if with this system, like what we have with Handshake, or what we are doing to be able to run programs for first generation students. Many people go, here, we'll give you the support. And so we've received over the years millions and millions of dollars from parent support too,
Sure.
which also has helped us fuel the innovation.
That's incredible, man. How do you see the landscape of higher education changing in the next 10 years, and what role will your institution play in that transformation?
That's a really good question. Well, I can speak about our institution first. So one of the cool things about Wake Forest is we have a motto called Pro Humanitate.
Pro Humanitate.
Which means for humanity, right? So basically, one is thinking about you as a human. How do you develop yourself to be the best human, the human you're supposed to be, one with the appropriate virtues and character, skills and mindset? Like that's something we want to pour into you. We want you to be thinking about that.
Sure.
And the second is, how can you take now what you've been given and make sure you're helping people, helping others, right? Be of service of others. Even if what you're doing isn't a for-profit job, how can you bring yourself to the table so that you're actually thinking about the bigger whole, right? And what's great is that we have a lot of employers who give us feedback on that. So I actually feel like Wake Forest wants to play a role in the future, no matter where higher it is, where we're remembering that we're humans, that in this world where technology feels like it's everything and like it's going to take over, humans will always be, I think, in charge enough to be able to say, hey, where's the human in this? And what can we do that is actually connecting us together as people? So that's where I think Wake Forest will always be. I think we'll always have different topical areas, but when it comes to things related to the career world, I'm hoping that we'll always be an innovator.
Unless Skynet takes over.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. There are a lot of things that we think will take over. I'm hoping that other people will get in the way before that happens.
Well, the thing is, that's a big challenge right now with career service and just in academia in general is artificial intelligence, because there's two things. One, on this side of the coin, artificial intelligence is people don't want to learn it. There's a gap. So people aren't embracing it. Then on this other side, people are using it, but then they're using it and then they sound like robots.
Yeah.
And so how do you bring that together
Right.
so that you can, you can utilize AI in a way that is beneficial, that still has that human element that
That's
you're
right.
talking about,
That's right.
but using it for efficiencies and making yourself better.
That's right. And I think that taps into the first part of your question about the future of higher ed. If higher ed isn't really intentionally thinking about these kinds of issues, about how do we make sure like, we think about how we implement our technology such that our human judgment is actually applied to giving students feedback, then I think if it doesn't happen, there's a lot of risk, because I say this to a lot of people, is that young people are really, and all people are motivated to do things where it's easy, it's convenient, it's fast.
Right.
And so if you ask anyone like what will you do if you want to do something, they'll usually go, well, I'll just ask Google or ask Siri or ask Alexa. And yes, that's easy and it's fast, but actually, one, is it correct? And two, actually the effort to do some of the research yourself, you might learn about a lot of different things that you didn't really realize that you should have known about because you were looking for how to do it easy. And so we are going to have a lot of work in higher ed to figure out how do we make sure in the experience that we create with students that they find enough value in that experience that keeps them centering on like this humanist experience of learning and engaging that they value, because it's not probably going to be as fun as things they could do on whatever the future's version of Instagram is or whatever their future's version of TikTok is. Like those things are always going to have a place where it's going to be easy for human minds to go, that seems really fun. And oh, by the way, I'm learning a lot of good stuff there. Why don't I just go there for school? So I do think that we have to be really thoughtful about that.
We do. I mean, it definitely, education has been commoditized with social media, right? And so it's balancing that. Like, people are going to social media to get their news now as opposed to newspapers, right? Or different outlets where you're used to. So education does have a challenge, but I don't think it's ever going to take away from higher education and institutions providing that value that's needed, especially for things like engineering, science, maybe more of your liberal arts stuff.
Right.
But I mean, you still got to go to school to learn how to operate on a human.
Right.
You still got to learn how to, learn contract law, and you're not going to get that in those places you're talking about.
No, that's right. That's right.
That brings me to, your career, your journey. What's been like the most rewarding thing, and maybe it's probably a lot of things, but like something that you would remember that's rewarding, that's been in your journey that you'd like to share?
Good, really good question. I think the most rewarding thing is that, there's a couple, and so I'll just put them in two spaces. So one is that, at Wake Forest, it is a place that I never would have imagined, like when I first went, that it would be there as long as I have. Like 15 years is a long time, my longest employer.
Especially coming from Stanford.
Especially having gone to a whole nother school a couple times and worked there. Like the reality is that Wake is a very special place. And it is one where we've been able to attract amazing people to come work with our team, be part of our team. Some have gone on to do amazing things at other institutions here across the country, which is wonderful, and they're amazing people. And the people who are still there, who are on the team, like I oftentimes say this, is like, if you've been fortunate enough to feel like you've built a team where it's like you've built a Maserati, you don't want to leave it behind, you just want to drive it. And I just feel like I just get to work with a bunch of people who are like Maserati level, like quality people. They're so strategic, they're so creative, and it's fun to go to work. So I'm super proud that that's been the case, and the kind of culture and the love, honestly, those people have for each other and for me is really fun to experience. And I say the other piece of it is that it's fun to be part of an industry where, and this is career services and NACE at large, where there's just a commitment to constant improvement and growth and change, and that the people who work in this industry are very open, collaborative, sharing kind of people. Like, it is just so fun to just be in life with people who are like wired that way. And so I'm proud to just be associated with it and be a person who's actually helped inspire hopefully a little bit of change along the way.
That's incredible. Give yourself also some credit, man. You come off as just a really strong leader, and I think leadership probably plays a big role in your not just happiness, but in the happiness of others that you help. You know what I mean? So it's like everything rises and falls on leadership, and when you're a good leader, you're also a good follower. And it seems like you listen to the feedback of the people, and like you said, this industry is very collaborative, and that's what's needed,
Yeah.
right? So awesome, and congrats to you. If you can give one piece of advice, I'm gonna ask two questions, but
Yeah.
the first one is, if you can give one piece of advice to someone that's coming into the career services industry as an employed person, what would that be for them?
Yeah, really good question. I think I would say, in coming in, obviously making sure whatever's expected from you, given the team environment you're on, deliver, be reliable. I like to use it really simply, like work hard, do great work, and make a lot of friends. And those three things will carry you like through your career. If I were to go to the next level underneath it, though, is that I was asked this earlier in another talk, is like, if there are like key sort of skills or mindsets someone needs to have, I'd say one is having a growth mindset, which is really including yourself. Be open to the fact that whatever you think might be your limitations, you can grow and change, and others can too. Sort of this whole idea of abundance as opposed to operating from deficit. And the second is having an entrepreneurial mindset, creating value when it seems like there's no new way to actually create value. Like, how do I create value? Look at other ways other people or other organizations do it, and see what might be adaptable to what you're doing. And the last is continue to grow your own emotional and relational intelligence. Like, really learn how to, learn how to take care of yourself, how to monitor where you stand relative to others, how to be empathetic and understanding to where others are coming from, but then also like investing in that over time. I just think that those things will lead you to then roll with how the world is going to change.
Love it.
That's the hardest part, is that like in some ways it's like, oh, just do these things and you'll become a director. Like, the reality is what a person needs to do to become a director today is very different than it was 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. And it might be different again 10 or 20 years. You just have to have you have to have this approach inside you to be ready for when that time comes.
Be willing to adapt.
Yeah.
I
Be
love
on
that.
your toes.
Love it. And then the next one is, if you had a piece of advice to a student coming into Wake Forest, not really knowing anything about career services, what their career is going to be, what would you give that person's advice coming to your school?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one where I divide students into different categories. There's one type of student who already feels like they know what they want and they just want to go after it. And to me, it'd be like, go get all the information you can to just go for it, and know that if actually for some reason you realize this isn't it for you, there are 1,000 other doors that you could go through, and life is not over. Like, just pick yourself up, go, okay, let me see what else there might be out there, and go for that. Then there are these other students who are like, I know I need to do this, but I just don't have time. Like, it's not a priority. And so what I would say there is, to the extent that you can, think about whether you are a person who has been on a sports team where you had a coach, whether you actually played an instrument and you had a teacher, whether you actually had a favorite teacher in high school that you actually just really like them. Try to find someone who is in this sort of career world, like at the Career Center, who could be that coach to you, who you say, I just want to touch base with you every other month for just 30 to 45 minutes and tell you what I'm thinking, and just tell me what else do you think I should be thinking about. Now you can decide. I would love you to take action on it. The more you take action, the faster you get your answers. But at least you're talking to someone that is not just your friends or just your parents or just your teachers. You're actually talking to someone who actually knows a little bit about careers, who would say, well, given what you've told me, like, it sounds like you're trying to think about like how your major connects to maybe a career. And there's a few things I could have you read or look at or do on video that could get you there. And if you want to, come back in a few weeks or a month or two, and let's talk about it again. And then that was the question you had. So then, like, go work on it. Right. But you have to create your own, make it your own class, your own coaching regimen. Like, if you're going to lose weight or run a marathon, you actually have to have a plan. You can't just assume it'll come together.
Yes. And to speak on that and to add to what you're saying, a mentor loves when a mentee takes the advice and actually goes and does it.
Totally.
Otherwise, what are we wasting our time for?
Totally.
Right. So
yeah.
I'm 100%
and the people who come back, you just want to pour more and more into.
Dude, I'm trying to figure out how to get you to be my mentor. My mentor and my son. I got my son who's in college right now. I'm like, we need to get him into Wake Forest, just so he could be around you. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for dropping knowledge. Please let everybody know how they can find you. And also, too, before we go, we're speaking to somebody here that was on a TED Talk. So real quickly, tell us what the TED
Oh,
Talk is
yeah.
so that they could find that, and then how they could find you online.
Yeah, sure. So the TEDx talk is old. It's in 2013, I did a talk called Career Services Must Die. And I know it sounds bad, but it isn't about making career services die. It's about rethinking the model. And it's a helpful thing for people to think about, but also for leaders, especially in the higher ed institutions, to really get more awareness that this stuff really matters. It really matters to the student experience, their stress level, their confidence level, and how they think about your school. So that's that. And then you can find me, best place is LinkedIn. You can link with me there, but the best way to get me to actually like link back is to just write a little note. Maybe it's something I said and we talked about. Maybe it's something that you've read about that you just want to say, hi, here's why I'd love to get to connect with you. That makes it way more likely we'll connect, because I get too many where I have no idea who they are. And I'm not into just having lots of followers for followers' sake. I like to know people a little bit. So that's how I think about that.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us at the Voices of Higher Education's WriteSea's executive interview series. Thank you so much, Mr. Chan, and we look forward to putting this out and connecting with you later.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.